Good morning, Brian. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, good morning. I can. Sorry, I'm just kind of getting all the machines working how they're supposed to for our meeting.
Well, that's all I'm doing is checking my machine.
All right, it looks like our live feed is working. The agenda is there. And let's share a screen. How about that? Can you see an agenda now?
Yes, we can.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. All right. Everything is working like it's supposed to.
That's amazing.
I'd rather you saw the agenda than me anyway.
Well, you're still on the sidebar.
Oh, well, that's no good then.
That's my choice, though.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, Maya.
Uh, Brian, you have the wrong agenda up there.
Oh, I do.
Well, he added up. I just looked at.
Yeah, you're right. It's a complete wrong meeting in the pile there. So on the other computer, it's right though.
Morning, Maya.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. Sorry for making life difficult the last couple days.
uh, sorry. I'm sorry I didn't realize that earlier that there could be an issue.
Oh,
From all the discussions I had with other NPOs, it seemed that we were good, and that's what everybody else is doing. But we'll go over that and see.
devil's always in the details.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I haven't mentioned the issue to anybody yet. I figured out I'll let you explain
All right.
once everybody gets on a call. So we only do it once.
Wise choice.
Brad, this is Karen.
Hey, Karen.
I told Maya earlier, but I have to leave the meeting at 10:40. So she thought that the meeting would be done by then. So, I'll be logging off. I'm actually sitting in a parking lot because I have a doctor's appointment with my son at 10:45. So I'm like, okay, I'll Zoom from the parking lot of the doctor's office so I can stay on the meeting as long as possible.
So he's stuck in the car waiting with you and listening to us?
No, he's not. His grandma's going to bring him here at 10:45. So he doesn't have to listen to the meeting, but I thought we'll just both meet here. I can meet as long as possible. Logistics, that's all.
Yep.
Thanks so much for doing that. Oh my gosh.
Well, normally I would have like Jan sit in, but Jan's replacement right now is Amy and she doesn't know a thing about MPO yet. So I said, I'll take this meeting and then I'll get her up to speed for future meetings if I need her to sit in, but and she'll be on the technical committee now. We sent you that letter and everything. So she'll start to understand a little bit more through that.
And I'll be happy to talk to her and kind of give her an overview of MPO.
Yeah. And Maya, our new project manager through FTA, our new project manager through MDOT is going to reach out to you as well. And I told him when he does that to include us on the meeting so that Amy can start learning more as well. I don't know if you've heard from him yet, but.
From Jason?
Yes.
I talked to him yesterday, but he hasn't mentioned anything.
Yeah, because we have a new MDOT project manager and we have 2 new FTA people. So, and then we have a new Amy. So it's going to be an interesting next few months.
So Maya, I'm assuming unless you've got a lot of people on the phone calls that we do not have a quorum here.
No, we only showing 11 participants. So we do not have a quorum as yet because some of the people on the participating are not voting members.
Okay, I see Anita's just joining us.
I am. There we go.
I just updated my name, so I'm now Karen Murphy instead of Marcy Post. That's helpful.
I was going to point that out, but
I know.
you beat me to it.
We have one account. We're trying to be frugal, so we only have one Zoom account, and we just for my office, and we share it. And Marcy's the one that set it up, so I have to remember to change my name when I log into it.
I got to figure out how to reset mine because every time I log in now on the Zoom meeting, it comes up as meeting host, and I have to change my name every single time. And I can't figure out how to change it back.
I don't mind if you're the meeting host.
Well, it's all good when everybody knows you, but when you jump into meetings that people aren't always familiar with you, it sometimes makes for an interesting point of conversation.
Honestly, prior to the virtual meetings, I wasn't able to attend as many meetings. And so, yeah, I've gotten to know more of the policy boards than ever. It's actually been kind of a nice year.
Well, think it'll be interesting over time to see how much it sticks with us when we don't have to do it.
Right.
So, because I think it'll definitely have a role to play.
Yeah.
Thought the requirement for the meetings virtually went off in May 31st or March 31st.
Yeah, actually, Carl, that when I was talking about making Maya's life difficult, that's what it's over, because when we get started here, I'm actually going to raise a concern I have that we are not able to meet this way today.
I agree.
So, we've got that concern. So we're going to have to cover that first.
Yeah, somehow I got a notice for our water district board meeting
Mhm.
that the allowance for virtual meetings ends on 31st.
Yeah, that's the provision under the Open Meetings Act, and that was the state-enabled legislation that the sort of the no reason virtual meetings ended. You're exactly right, May 31st. And then the only way it can be continued through the rest of the calendar year is by virtue of a resolution, either a local state of emergency or disaster declaration.
Yeah, that's a real sketchy area right there too.
Yeah, it's legitimate if you're doing it for public health and safety, but
Right.
But the issue is they have to be, in our opinion, basically, and I'm only speaking from the city's perspective, but from the city perspective, it has to be very clear that you are authorizing the virtual meetings to continue over the balance of this year. And that's the concern I have about, because the county, in fact, has issued a declaration, a state of emergency declaration. My opinion is, and the city attorney's opinion is, it doesn't cover virtual meetings. And
Yeah, I think that's abuse of power too.
yeah, well, that was debatable. I'm actually going to issue a local state of emergency today for the city to allow for those virtual meetings through the end of June. And our reasoning is, by that point in time, most people should be vaccinated locally. And at that point, we'll return to in-person meetings. But yeah, but you have to do it, and you have to be clear that you're doing it.
Well, someday we'll join the 21st century, maybe by the end of the 22nd, and we'll have these people be open to change.
Well, the debates about virtual meetings and if we ever get to a quorum, just jump in and stop this discussion. We're just spilling time here, but the discussions have been very interesting over the support versus the opposition to the virtual meeting format. There's certainly an argument to be made that it's easier for people to access and participate. We've seen our numbers go up a little bit, not tremendously, but a little bit as far as public participation. And then the other side is, well, if you want to participate in governance, you ought to be there at the table and in the same room and see people face to face. And if you want to talk to your elected officials, you need to make a little bit of effort to get off your couch and come down and talk to them. So there's, I think, arguments legitimately on both sides.
Yeah, I was in a MML meeting yesterday, and that's one of the discussions that they were talking about, that they're having quite a bit of discussion in the legislation of the pros and cons on it. One of the things is because you can be, as we've seen over the last couple of months, is you can be in Florida vacationing and still participate in the meetings.
Yep.
But you're not local.
Right.
So what happens when it goes forward, and we do this all the time? You don't have to be a member of your local community at all. You could be anywhere.
One of the things that we've, for MDOT, we've come back to the office May 1st, return to work. But, you know, we have had some people ask about, could they work from another state? The answer is no. We would allow virtual from, at least not at this point, from within the state. But I mean, if you're gone, like I have family in Wisconsin, if I were to go there for a week and there was a policy meeting, I could join that.
Right.
Because why would I not go for that meeting or two? But to work there permanently, to ask for that as a permanent, the answer is no, because the idea is that you work for the state and you need to be available for the MPOs that type of thing. An occasional bit, I get it if it's an occasional thing, but it would not be a permanent setup. Even if we were allowed to work remotely permanently, and there's tax implications, there's some piece on that. So, and some MPOs have older board members. So to be in a small room with a bunch of people, I don't know how comfortable people are just yet with that.
Yeah.
All right, we had a few more people join in, so we do
sorry.
have,
We do have a quorum now, Maya?
yes.
All right, we will we'll get underway then. It's 10:08. We will call the meeting to order, and we'll start with a roll call just to establish that we do have quorum. And then I do have an item before we get into the agenda. We kind of started to allude to it a little bit relative to the virtual meeting setting. So Maya, do you want to run through the roll call to start?
Yeah, Brian will do that, and I'll ask everybody if they could announce where they are calling from, just the name of a jurisdiction where they are calling from.
City and state, they need to indicate.
Yes.
Or township. Yeah.
All right, Brad Kay,
President, Midland, Michigan.
Jonathan Myers,
I'm his substitute, Russ Inman, Midland County Road Commission, Sanford, Michigan.
Jim Lillo,
Bay County Road Commission, Peru. Oh, I'm sorry, Tucson, Michigan.
all right, Dan Armentrout. Thought I saw Dennis on the.
Dennis, Saginaw County Road Commission, City of Saginaw.
Fantastic. Anita Bowner,
Yep, Anita, I'm MDOT calling from Brighton, Howell, Livingston County. What was the other thing you wanted to know? Oh, Michigan.
Yeah.
Karen Murphy,
Present, Midland, Michigan.
Gary Rogers,
Present, Midland, Michigan.
Eric Sprague, Terry Holt, Maria Sandow,
Present, Larkin Township, Midland, Michigan.
Kenneth Brown, Russ Varner, Mike Wood,
Mike Wood representing Jerome Township from Cape Coral, Florida.
Speaking of.
Yeah.
I knew Brad would say something.
Yeah.
very good. Kevin Ray, Terry Hall, Kim Heisler,
Present, Ingersoll Township, Freeland, Michigan.
Dave Haig, Carl Hammond,
Village of Sanford, Michigan. Present.
Will Butterfield, Rick Hayes. All right, that's it for our voting members. And I believe if we have anyone else on the call, I know Jay Reithel is on the call. Is there anybody else? Okay.
Okay. So we do have a quorum, Brian?
Yes.
All right, thanks. So before we get into the agenda, I just, like I said before, I've been making Maya's life a little difficult starting late last week and over yesterday and then this morning as well over the virtual meetings format of this meeting. As was indicated with just our comments before we got going in the meeting, the state authority to have sort of no reason virtual meetings expired at the end of May. Under that provision under the Open Meetings Act, the only way that we can continue to meet virtually after May 31st, get my right date, March 31st. May 31st would be a whole different thing. We wouldn't be having this conversation. But after the 31st, the only way that we can meet virtually is under either a local state of emergency declaration or a disaster declaration. The county has passed a local state of emergency back on, I think it was March the 17th, if I'm not mistaken, that extends until May the 4th. But the concern that I have that I've raised with Maya is that it does not cover what we do in the format of our own meeting. It specifically declares it and basically it opens up the response and recovery elements of the emergency operations plan and activates those. It authorizes 3 individuals, being the county board chair, the county administrator controller, or the public health director, to impose, modify, or authorize exceptions, to any existing county policy or established practice. But nowhere in that emergency declaration does it speak to Open Meeting Act issues or the authority for virtual meetings. Arguably, it could be extended and stretched to say county meetings can meet virtually, but we're not a county board. We're not under county authority in that context. And so we've looked at it from a city perspective, and the city attorney's looked at it, and he and I spent some time on it both yesterday and today. And our conclusion is that we are not authorized under that declaration to hold virtual meetings. And as such, it's my opinion and my position, at least from a city, and I'm only speaking from the city's perspective here, but it's my position that we are not able to continue with the meeting, and that we should in fact re-advertise it in accordance or get a new declaration from the county, but today's meeting can't proceed. So I'm going to throw it to the board to put that out there. If there's questions, I'd be happy to answer them from what we've been doing. And Maya, feel free to offer additional comments. The understanding, and this is not, it's not a matter of fault here. I hope nobody takes it in that manner. There's an emergency declaration. Maya's been proceeding on that basis. Most MPOs are working on that basis across the state, but it's always the details of the actual resolution that dictate whether or not it's authorized. And as much as I would love there to be something in there that we could find, we just haven't been able to find it, at least from our perspective at the city. And as such, we are not going from a city perspective be able to participate, even should the policy committee choose to move forward today. So I'll throw that out to the floor. Let the rest of you have comments and thoughts. Or Maya, maybe I should ask you first if you have additional comments, since you're the one I've been back and forth with as well.
Yes, and I would like to apologize because I believed that with this local state of emergency, we were okay pursuing our meetings in the virtual format. And yes, the devil is in the details. So I would like to apologize for this.
I don't think you need to apologize. Don't worry about that. This is.
I do have a question for you, Brad.
Yep.
So how does this differ from us doing phone call-ins? Because under our bylaws, we allow us to have a phone call in and meet that way. Mm-hmm. That's virtually.
Yeah, it's a good question. So the first question I asked to Maya was, are we considered a public body that is required to meet or provide for this format of a meeting? And so I don't know that we're 100% resolved or answered on that question, but our interpretation has been that we're a public body. We specifically have allowed for in-person and telephone participation, but we haven't necessarily allowed for the virtual formats under our bylaws.
Brad, don't we fall under the Open Meeting Act? And what have we been chartered under? What law? Oh. Matt, what was it chartered under when it was first conceived?
We have an intermunicipality agency.
With a who?
We do fall under the Open Meeting Act. But we have an intermunicipality agency that Michigan allows the aid.
So we are a public group.
Yes.
Yes. So we fall under the Open Meetings Act.
Yes. I think the issue is that our bylaws permit the voting members to call in on the meetings and vote that way. The recent amendments to the Open Meeting Act very clearly specify that during the COVID-19, they really restricted how the meeting can take, how the meetings are to proceed, and I think that's the differential. That the recent amendments very clearly specify what can and what cannot be done, whereas before it wasn't specified to that degree.
Go ahead.
I was just going to chime in. Yeah, we have had some clarification on that. We ran it by Eric Mullen is now our oversees the policy area, and we asked for an interpretation from that. So yes, although in the past it's been allowed and under the bylaws, the voting members are allowed to vote virtually or via phone. Moving forward, those votes do not count toward quorum. They can attend. We'd still encourage that public meetings have virtual components to allow greater participation. However, the clarification is that the voting members must be present to vote once the state of emergency is lifted, because Maya is correct. We are under that Open Meetings Act. So there needs to be a public location for meeting, and you still can have virtual attendance and get participation. But like for myself, technically, even though you may have a local, essentially it's like a local ordinance, it doesn't precede the state legislative document.
That sounds like the same thing that we were given to the water district that was sent out to us.
Right.
Exactly what you just stated.
Yep. It's kind of like having a local ordinance that allows say a speed limit of 70 miles an hour, but the state has a sign out there that says it's 50. So you can't oversee it and say, oh, the local ordinance says we can go 70. It doesn't supersede it.
Right.
Midland County Road Commission, we are following and going using the county's resolution, and that is what we have gone with, and we are continuing our virtual meetings until through the end of May 4th. I would think, regardless if it says that or not specifically, that because it's for Midland County and Matt's is based in Midland County, that it should apply.
But not all of our representatives are from Midland County. Is that not correct? We have Saginaw County representatives also.
So would you say that we have to have 3 separate resolutions on?
Yes. It wouldn't, if the resolution was in Midland County, it doesn't affect Saginaw County or Bay County.
That's correct. It's where the public meeting is held. The location of the public meeting is typically in Midland County for this board. And so it applies to the city or county in which that meeting is held at. Now, if, for example, if Livingston County had a state of an emergency act, and that's where I'm from as a voting member, then I believe I have the ability to call in and that vote would count. I believe that's the case. But it's really based on it from an individual standpoint. But from the meeting standpoint, it's where that meeting is normally held.
Right. Yeah, and that's been our interpretation too. Matter of fact, we've been talking, or Maya and I have been talking back and forth a little bit, that we at the city have to make our own declaration because of the fact we don't believe the county resolution covers it for our own purposes. And we're talking about perhaps extending that to all public bodies within the city, which would then cover Matt's potentially, at least as a solution to this problem. But unfortunately, with it just literally over the last yesterday afternoon and today, largely we didn't have time to get one in place for that. So. And Russ, you'd be covered because you would be clearly under the county policies provisions of the declaration. It's just that, again, Matt's isn't a county board, and county policies don't apply to us on this board anyhow.
Well, it would be a county state of emergency. I don't think it's only limited to county government.
Well, it's the wording of the declaration. So the only authorization in there is for 3 people to authorize changes to county policies. And we're not, number one, those 3 people don't have any jurisdiction over us unless the county public health director issued an order saying we can't meet. And then secondly, we're not subject to county policy. So even if they alter all the county policies in the world, it doesn't affect us. This is our position in the city.
So I didn't know about that distinction. Now I'm questioning the other emergencies that were put into place, because this is the first I've heard of this.
Yeah, it was a new one too. I just raised it, like I said, I think with Maya on Friday, and we didn't start, unfortunately, able to talk until yesterday. But most resolutions that are out there are very clear that they authorize virtual meetings, and they're authorizing that under the Open Meetings Act provisions that were adopted last year by the state legislature. Midland County's does not. So it may be just a problem with this specific local state of emergency that we have and that we're working under.
Oh, gotcha.
So I think I would propose, in order for everything to be in order, that we would stop this meeting. We would not proceed with the agenda items, and that we would re-advertise the meeting. And the only question comes in whether we would wait till May 4th for our next scheduled meeting, or whether we would hold the meeting, let's say a week from now or 2 weeks from now, re-advertise it. And then the only issue is whether we just hold a regular in-person meeting, or whether the city would have a local state of emergency resolution done shortly, so that we can have that meeting as a virtual meeting. I think those are the distinctions that we have to decide on.
Are there any pending projects that are at risk of falling behind? Russ, do you have anything that would be?
I just looked, and it looks like there's a couple things for the transit on the TIP amendment, but
Right.
I'm not sure what those items would be. We don't have any for the road commission.
Yes, the only really critical agenda item is a TIP amendment, and the two bridge CPM projects are not a problem because they are for year 2023. So the only thing is a couple of transit projects that we were just processing the changes to them, but those projects don't get obligated till more towards end of the summer. So I don't think it should be an issue with them. Karen, would you like to jump in here and indicate whether you're okay with that? If those projects are okay to be approved within a couple weeks time or a month time, or whether you need to have them approved as soon as possible.
Yeah, we would be fine with the 2 week wait. I mean, the city's stance is that we can't participate in this as official meeting. So yeah, we can make that work on a 2 week delay.
What if we made it like 2.5 weeks? So then the next tech meeting stuff could be approved at the same time.
That would work too. The only, actually really the only agenda item that's coming up at the technical is the new unified work program. So that would be great if that was approved at the technical meeting, and then be also approved at the policy meeting shortly thereafter. That would be great.
You run into any issues for advertising that, having given so many days between? I mean, can you take it from your tech right to your policy in the same day for the UWP?
Yeah, there's no, some agencies actually have tech and policy very shortly thereafter, within even, on the same day of the next day. So that's not a problem. It just has to be advertised. The policy meeting just has to be advertised appropriately. So technical meeting is on April 21st. So, I mean, we could have a policy meeting on the 22nd. If everybody's okay with that. That's a Thursday.
Yeah, I'm looking at my calendar right here.
I'll be back a little fatter and tan, but I can make it.
Just keep rubbing it in.
You're looking at the 22nd, right, Maya?
Yes, that's correct. As if it's to everybody's.
Yeah, I can do that. So
I can.
I'm not in Florida.
I won't be either. I'll be back.
That works.
Maya, I
for me.
might be able. Oh, I'm sorry, Kim, go ahead.
Yeah, I say that works for me.
Maya, I'm a tentative. It depends on the timing, because I have a potential, I'm on an interview panel, and I don't know if the interviews are going to be that day or the following Thursday. I don't know when that's going to be held. And it's for Don's position, the other supervisor position.
You guys are cleaning house.
No kidding.
Well, Don
Wow.
was promoted. He's now the section manager. So we have to replace him as the West supervisor.
Any city engineers you want to send our way, Anita?
Yeah.
And I'm assuming we would like to hold it the same time, 10 a.m. in the morning.
Yes, that works for me.
Make that work.
So then the only question is whether we are posting that meeting as a in regular regular meeting or a virtual meeting, and that depends on the city's resolution then.
Right. Well, we can cover, I'm pretty sure we can cover any meetings held within the corporate limits of the city by a city resolution. So we will cover it one way or the other. So I guess the question from the rest of us is, do we want to continue as a virtual format or not? Because at this point it's discretionary, as long as we don't exceed, well, current regulations are 25 people, and
They just changed that too.
did they?
As in with the last 25 hours, 24 hours.
So what they changed the number to? Do you know, Carl?
They unrestricted it.
Oh, okay. So we probably still have the distancing standards though.
Right.
Yeah. So that would be our challenge with a group, and a quorum as large as ours needs to be finding a room that we can actually sit 6 feet apart from each other.
Yeah, because COVID can't go past 6 feet.
The fourth way.
6 feet. It's his maximum distance.
Yeah,
and it don't exist, and it does exist below 4 feet, because you can't walk into a restaurant. When you sit down, it doesn't transmit.
So with our policy for our meetings, is there a way we could revise our policies at some point to allow for virtual meetings and the acceptance of those to count towards quorum?
I don't think so. I
It
think
depends
that's
on
what
state
Anita was saying.
legislation.
Yeah.
Only if they change the state legislation.
That's exactly
because
what I just said.
That's what's overriding. Yep, Carl is correct on that. We would be overriding the state law versus.
And there is pending legislation in the House right now.
Oh,
To do-
awesome. To do that?
To do exactly that, yes.
Yeah, but there's
been for a little
strong
while.
opposition.
There's a lot of pushback on it, but there is a resolution, or there is legislation pending.
That's because
Gotcha.
people go to Florida, that's why.
Yeah, that's right. That's one of the main issues is people being out of the area. And
Oh,
not-
gotcha.
And Anita didn't mention it, but we are extended through, MDOT is extended through July 12th. We're not going back to the office, so we still,
Oh,
yeah, we still have that to figure out as well, what our participation is at what point, and it's
Right.
complicated.
thank you, Jay. I didn't catch that one.
Yeah, it just came out on Monday or maybe Friday.
There's a lot of unknowns in all this right now.
There is.
It's-
All right, so to bring it back to the discussion, so is everybody comfortable if we do it as a virtual meeting for the 22nd?
Yes, sir.
All right. So, and just so everyone knows, we can have a discussion at that meeting about what we do moving forward. I think that would be wise if you would just place that on the agenda, Maya. But the city resolution that I'm going to be passing today will extend the option for virtual meetings until the end of June. And so it's only one, probably are going to have to meet again in May. I wouldn't think, if we're meeting on the 22nd, but we never know. But either way, it gives us the options at least until the end of June. So.
And that'll be great, because it sounds like if we had to meet in person, we will have to find a different room, a larger room, and that's, obviously that entails its own issues.
Yep, that's our exact problem with council too, is I can't put my council around the table and have them 6 feet apart to meet the health and human service standards and put them in these council chambers without taking up pretty well the whole floor, which means I can't have the public there. So that's why they've gone that potentially at least till the end of June.
Well, that was the other thing, Brad, they were talking about at the MML, is that they want the councils to be together, but they allow for the public to come in through virtual means. So
Yeah,
I think we're gonna see a hybrid as we go forward when this shakes out.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm doubtful that they're going to extend it past the end of the year, frankly, just based on my conversations with legislators. But
yeah, there's a lot of buzz going on right now.
there certainly is. There certainly is. All right, so officially we're not meeting.
Yep. We didn't
this
meet.
discussion is all informal, so it's all informal direction to Maya. So I guess for the purposes of the meeting, we called the meeting to order. We held a discussion, determined that by virtue of the the Open Meeting Act provisions we could not meet, and therefore we adjourned.
Very good.
That will be the official minutes, I suppose, of the meeting. But then we'll try to get everyone together, and obviously, Maya, the sooner you get noticed to everybody about the 22nd, the better, to hopefully make sure we can get a quorum that day.
Awesome. And before I issue that, I would like to have the city's resolution in hand.
Yep.
To be all official.
Yep, I have to do it today because I forgot I had a public meeting going on tonight with my city engineering staff. So they have a meeting on the Sugnet Road extension project, which we're helping fund. So I got to make sure I've got notice in place for them for that tonight. So
One last question on this. So would your resolution, Brad, cover like Lilo that's not in those other people from outside of that jurisdiction? All the rest of us?
It's not so much a jurisdictional issue. I think it's, as Anita said, it's where the meeting is held.
All right.
And so our meeting is based here at the county building. And since this would give us the authority, given that's our normal physical location, to say, okay, we're not going to meet in person, we're going to do it virtually. And I think that extends and gives us enough extension. I'm not 100% certain, to be honest, Russ, but I think it's pretty clear that if somebody was from Bay or Saginaw or Florida, that allows them to participate in the meeting this year.
I could take a shot
Mike,
at
you
it,
know
Mike.
that.
I knew you could bring that up.
Yeah.
Couldn't resist. So I think we're covered by that, because our meeting is based here.
Hey, Russ, when we're done with this meeting, I want to give you a quick call. So
Sounds good.
thanks.
All right, so Maya, anything else you want to share since we got everybody's ear for a couple of minutes?
No, this is it.
All right. Well, I apologize to everybody that this came up so late. Like I said, Maya and I were going back and forth, and we really didn't have kind of much of a resolution, and we still don't have 100% resolution, but we really didn't settle on where we stood at the city level until probably about a half hour before the meeting started. So I apologize, but I do thank you all for being here, and then thanks also for being flexible to meet on the 22nd. So we'll get these items through for Maya and for Brian and get things underway for everybody.
Sounds good.
All
Thank
right,
you.
Meantime, I'll reach out. I have been reaching out to the county, so we'll work with the county and get things resolved as far as resolutions, so that everybody's covered, both county and city. So,
Perfect. Thanks.
all right.
Thanks all.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate your time.
Have a good day.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.